Okay, so I'll just let you all know, this first go round of coffee with Cori, I'm actually having coffee with my oldest child, who's 14 years old. And so some of these questions are actually coming from a 14-year-old who is about to inherit the world in 4 years. That which we are doing now is going to be bestowed upon our 8th graders and our 9th graders now. So, what was the question again? You said something and it was good.
Minimum wage?
Minimum wage, yeah, okay, good. All right. So, I know a lot about minimum wage. I've worked minimum wage quite a bit in my life.
Oh yeah, I said it's not enough to put a roof over your head or to buy groceries.
Right. And how do you know that? Who told you that?
The internet.
The internet told you.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Because if it's on there, it must be true.
Clearly. Oh, don't get me started on that one. Anyway, let's talk about minimum wage. Yes, the internet said it. It happens to be true, but let me tell you why it's true, not just because it's on the internet. When you were still a zygote, okay, back up for everybody watching. I was 17 years old when I became pregnant with my oldest child. This is why I am a millennial with a kid who knows more about the internet than I do. And I was working minimum wage. Your father was also working minimum wage. The two of us put together couldn't support ourselves on minimum wage. There were times, especially after I became pregnant with you, in which only one of us could eat. And I applaud your father for the sacrifices that he was willing to make at the time. When we found out that I was pregnant with you, he actually skipped several meals because we could only afford for one of us to eat. And it was really important to him that his pregnant girlfriend be able to eat and nourish our little baby. So we had a roommate. We were fortunate that we could at least keep the roof over our head in that respect. But when I think about minimum, that's not meeting the minimum. If 2 people making minimum wage can't feed themselves, that is below minimum, and it doesn't make sense. So once again, this kind of goes back to, what's the government even for? Why is it even there? It's not just there to make us stand in line forever at the DMV and make us miserable. It's really meant to stick up for the little guy. So if there is a big corporation that employs a whole bunch of people, and we both did work for big corporations, multi-state and all that, the considered low-level jobs, why shouldn't they be able to eat? Why shouldn't those workers be able to eat? Now I get it. I used to hear all the time, well, then you should just go to school. Okay, BS. I go to school, and then I still can't find a job. And, and then you've got all kinds of student debt, but that's a different topic. So it is a very, very naive and very privileged thing to tell somebody in poverty, just go to school. You don't just go to school, you can't afford it. Also, while you're just going to school, you still need to eat and have a roof over your head so that you can study without, getting rained on. I mean, hello. Without even talking about how expensive college is. So it's a serious problem. Besides that, what if our solution really is that all lower level employees just need to go to school and get better jobs? Are we really saying that no one should have those jobs? They all should just go to school and get better jobs? So then how are we going to ever get groceries at the grocery store? Who's going to bag our groceries? Who's going to serve our meals when we're in a hurry and we have to swing into some cheaper restaurant somewhere? Who's going to serve us? Who's going to make those meals? Who is going to unload those trucks? Who's going to clean the toilet that we just used in public? Somebody's got to do that. We can't tell all of them, well, if you want to survive at all, you need to just get a different job. So our the philosophy of, well, nobody should just have those jobs if they want to have a life. That doesn't fit in the society that we have. That doesn't fit in our expectations of service. Furthermore, who deserves to feed themselves and who doesn't deserve to feed themselves, and who decides who deserves what? I hear a lot of people who say, you know, I don't want to pay for welfare because I work hard and they should just work harder. Well, I can tell you, as somebody who spent a lot of time on minimum wage, that I have never worked harder in my life than when I was making a pittance. It's actually kind of opposite. The more money I have made, the less toil I have done. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, higher paid jobs or middle management and above don't use a lot of intellectual work. Obviously, there is more responsibility involved. But when you talk about working hard or not working hard, that's not really a fair comparison to the wage. So to tell a bunch of poor people just work harder is just insulting. There's no reason for it. So as long as we have minimums, the minimum should reflect the minimum, not like half the minimum. That's what the minimum is. I mean, if you're going to call it minimum wage, it should be a minimum livable wage. Otherwise, it's just slave wages. So there's totally grounds in my coffee, but it's good. All right, so my oldest child just brought up a really good point. The point was, you know, I get outraged by some of these things, but not enough to actually do anything about it because I still have to live my life. But in 4 years, because in 4 years, he'll be 18, in 4 years I have to live in this trash planet. First of all, it's not a trash planet, don't worry. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is so that I can hand you something good to work with. Because in 4 years, you are going to have to take responsibility for voting and things. And second, the idea of outrage. We have to not be reactive, but be responsive. So when something occurs like this, like what I was sharing about spousal rape and the law, something that you are completely outraged by, not everybody has to do everything. So if you're outraged, you can call your delegate, write your delegate, and tell them this needs to change in the law. You don't have to necessarily be the, what'd you call me one time, kid? You called me the social justice warrior or something. Not everybody.
SJW.
The what?
SJW.
SJW?
Social justice warrior.
Is that like a hashtag or something?
No.
Oh,
it's just a
it
thing.
should be. I like it.
Okay.
It's a thing, you said?
It's just a thing.
It's a thing. I like it. I'm glad it's a thing. So not everybody has to be full on SJW, as you say, to be involved. But I think, because I am technically considered a millennial. Do you know what millennial means, kiddo?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. Just checking. I'm at the upper end of the millennial spectrum, so I'm still kind of old and I know what cassette tapes are, but I'm still considered of the younger adult generation. And a lot of my fellow millennials only kind of recently woke up. Did I say woke up? Whatever. Only recently woke up and realized that we're the grown-ups now. We don't get to rely on somebody else to take care of things anymore. Now, you being 14 still have the luxury of letting somebody else take care of things, but we realize, and we, meaning my generation, that nobody else is going to take care of it for us. We are the grown-ups, and we have to change the things that we are unhappy with, or the things that directly affect us, because our representation currently is not reflective of our actual day-to-day lives. And if we don't stand up and represent ourselves, nobody else is going to. A rich attorney has no basis or inclination to represent the needs and viewpoints of a regular middle-class family. So those of us millennials that find ourselves on the losing end of the economy, or on the losing end of debt, or in this particular situation that we were just talking about, on the losing end of a marital rape situation in which the law doesn't protect us. We can't sit back and blame our parents for everything. We have to stand up and fix the things that need fixing. Because, I mean, we didn't know all the things that needed fixing. We really believed everything we learned in school about fairness and justice for all. We didn't realize until recently that justice is a living thing. It's not enough to write the Constitution and be done. That's why the Constitution has so many amendments. There are things that come about that couldn't have been foreseen in 1776, and we have to morph as we go. It's something that has to be guarded. Freedom and democracy is not something you can just put on autopilot, unfortunately. It's something that has to be guarded against, because as long as there's a society of any kind, as long as there's power to be had, there's going to be people struggling to get that power and that influence. And in the process of that, there are people who are going to get stepped on. And the whole point of having a government to begin with, in my view, is to make sure that our society functions without a whole bunch of people getting stepped on.